Welcome back to another episode of No Melanin Talks. Today we are going to go into a deeper discussion regarding albinism and those of us who are Black, African American. I know on the last episode we delved into albinism within Black families. Well, today's episode we're going to delve into albinism in Black culture, Black environments. So if you're ready, let's go. And this is going to absolutely, this tag sticking out, it's going to bother me for the rest of the video. So yeah, put that in. I'm gonna slide this chair over because that's gonna bother me too. Oh wait, I forgot to slide that over. All right, let's talk. We mentioned skin tone yesterday, and skin tone, as I said, plays a very huge role in the Black community. The whole light skin versus dark skin thing is really a huge issue. So when you talk about people being born into a culture where melanin matters a lot, you stick out a lot in more ways than one. It can have positive and negative effects depending on the type of family you're with or environment you're in. But for a great majority of us, those of us with this condition who are of African or Black African descent, however you want to put it, we dealt with a lot of negativity because of the fact that we have little to no pigment in our hair and our skin and our eyes. And most people are more familiar with the light skin thing because it comes, as society says anyway, with privilege. You're supposed to have some type of token of pride. You're supposed to be put up on an elephant and paraded through the town with the grand marshals and a marching band in front of you because your skin is so superior and you're just so beautiful. This is supposedly what's supposed to happen for you if you're light skinned. So, you know, this whole privilege thing is something that we as people with albinism, we look at it, we're like, no. That's not the case, because most people, when they see us, they think, oh, you benefited from that in some way. No, we didn't benefit from that. We dealt with bullying. We dealt with teasing. We dealt with discrimination. Why do I keep wanting to say belt? Lord, we dealt with a lot of just overall negativity in regards to the fact that our physicalness was just so much different than what everyone was accustomed to seeing. I want to say that this wasn't the case, as I mentioned in the previous video. This wasn't the case for everyone, but for a great majority of us, we had these experiences, whether it was at school or it was at church, whether it was at the library, in the neighborhood, whether it was just wherever we were, mostly outside of our home. We dealt with this a lot. And so the adverse effects of that caused many of us to have issues with who we are. We had insecurities, we had low self-esteem, we had a lot of things. And if you are familiar with my story, I mentioned it yesterday, but I failed to put the link down in the bio. So today I'm going to do it. You know that I spent hours on hours of summers as a teenager, first of all, taking my allowance to go to the dollar store to buy self-tanning lotion so that my skin could become darker. I also would sit out in the sun in like Texas heat. And if you are from the South, specifically from Texas, you already know how the sun gets down with us. I was the crazy one trying to sit out in the summer heat, trying to tan my skin so that I could become darker. I wanted to be darker so bad. I hated my skin color. I hated the fact that I didn't have any pigment. I hated a lot of things about myself, and it all centered around me being an albino. It centered around me being that girl that was talked about. It centered around me being the girl that was looked at funny. And even if no one necessarily said anything, I could feel it. And you know how you can feel when you're being talked about, or the looks or the stares or the comments and things like that, especially when you are hanging around with your peers who are children of the adults that you know, and you can tell that you're being talked about based off of how they are treating you or by their interactions with you. It has a lot of stuff stacked inside of it when you talk about being built in that type of environment or dealing with that type of environment. And for my sisters and I, we dealt with that a lot. And even with our peers, as I said before, children, if you look into this, it's been proven scientifically, I believe, that children have to be taught how to hate. You know how they talk about with racism, like a child has to be taught to hate a Black child? Well, in this instance, it's true, because just in that token, in my opinion, I feel it's the same when you're talking about children children who are born differently, not necessarily with albinism, but just with anything. A child that is just in a playpen with another baby isn't going to notice, oh, well, they don't have melanin, or they don't have an eye, or they're not readily noticing those things and looking at them as though they hate them or something is wrong with them. It takes someone with influence, especially an adult who has direct influence over them, to teach them these patterns, to say mean or menacing things, or to tease them and cause them to have some type of objectiveness towards that child. And for us, that was a part of our experience as well, because like I said, dealing with our peers who were often children of the adults we were around, we could just tell that these were the things. And then in other cases, you have kids as they get older and they want to be cool, they want to be in the in crowd, they'll hang out with people who are bad influences over them, and this has no direct effect on the parent, but just who their child chooses to hang around. And these influences can cause them, even if they don't truly feel it themselves in their heart, if they want to fit in bad enough, they'll do and say things towards someone else or towards a group of children, people, whomever, just for the sake of being popular, just so they won't be the ones being talked about. So it's so much to unpack in it, that this discussion, it would have to take several parts to really talk about this in depth. The depth of colorism, the depth of just the overall prejudice against skin tones, and it takes a lot. But my goal is to just shed light on the fact that those of us with this condition, we experienced a lot of these things within our community, and it took us growing up and getting out of where we were, the comforts of our zone, to really understand that everybody didn't feel the way or the same way that those that we grew up around felt. Like, you might not have thought that I was cute, or you might not have felt that I was going to be anything, but when you move around and God opens up that door for you to start being around other people, you see that, okay, that was just them. That's not everybody. And even more so, beyond people, when you really delve into God and you really begin to read his word for yourself, you begin to see that his plans, his words about you, as I said before, it matters so much more than what anyone else could ever say about you. And I know that was one of the great things that really benefited me, was getting locked in on what God was saying about me. And when I began doing that, so much in my life began to change. I began embracing who I was as an albino, as a person with albinism. It didn't matter if you talked about me, or even now, I don't care, because I know who I am and I know whose that I am. I'm grateful also for my sisters. I'm grateful for their support. I'm grateful for their love. I'm grateful for the community that we built to be able to lean on one another. And I'm blessed because, there are three of us, but in other families, it's not that same thing. So these videos, these things like this are helpful to those who don't have anyone else to lean on. And you might be feeling like, man, I'm in this by myself. I'm experiencing this by myself. I want you to know that you're not crazy. You're not imagining things. As I said before, skin tone plays a very prevalent role in the Black community. It matters a lot. And anytime something is different or someone is different from the norm, all people, regardless of skin, color, culture, whatever, we all have a tendency to just poke at it and prod at it because we don't get it. And that is why we're not God, because his ways are so far above our ways, his understanding, his way of moving and thinking. And the minute we think we understand and know more than God, that's when we get into our error, because we feel like we know all of his ways. And the minute he does something different and we can't put a tab on it and say what it is, we immediately demonize it and try to make it to be some type of obscure thing, when it's not. It's just the way God chose to make us. We're not any different from anyone else. We are beautiful. We were fearfully and wonderfully made. God chose us to be this way on purpose, for a purpose, to do great things. There's no one skin tone that is better than the other. There is nothing that is better than anything else other than the Lord Jesus Christ. He is the best thing that could ever happen to us. And so I pray that this video just inspires you to continue going, and it encourages you to know that nothing is wrong with you. I don't care what anyone has to say. I just gave you a synopsis of my story and the experiences that my sisters and I dealt with from people within our family, from some people even in church. Yes, it happens even in church. That's not everybody, but yes, experiences there with people who treated us that way. Even outside of that, in our neighborhood, where it happened. And this is why these conversations are important for you to know about, so that you can know that you're not in this by yourself. Relatability is so important, it's so key. And that's one of the things that I loved about getting into advocacy when I started this thing publicly about 9 years ago, was getting in with others who had shared experiences, knowing that, man, I wasn't the only one that went through that. They did too. And being able to talk about it and build a platform that promotes healing, that promotes love, that promotes peace, and more importantly, that promotes God. Because without Him, you wouldn't see me. You wouldn't have anything that you have right now going on with No Melanin specifically if it wasn't for Him. And I owe everything to God. I owe it all to Him. And as I said before, this is just a opening discussion, and I encourage you to have this discussion in your homes, parents, guardians. I encourage you to just facilitate these discussions. And even for those of you who are on social media, if you're on social media, facilitate, talk about it, get into it. Everything doesn't maybe you don't want to post it online, but you have so many ways to do discussion boards and just overall, so that way this is something that's out there and this can stop as much as possible. Because when I get DMs from parents telling me that their kids are being picked on and bullied because they are this way and they're being picked, it just, I'm like, why are we still, it's at this point, it's like I said on yesterday, people just make choices to do things that they want to do. But for the most part, and somebody come in, so that's why I'm smiling. We just do things that we want to do, and it just makes all the difference in the world when you can relate to people and you can give your story and you can talk about it in a way that really does help other people in their situation and what they're going through. So I hope that something that I said today was inspiring and encouraging to you, and I hope that you are able to grow and learn and cultivate an atmosphere for yourself that promotes who you are and who God created you to be. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video, and I hope to see you on my next No Melanin Talks episode. Don't forget to follow me on social media at No Melanin. I love this so much. I love being able to talk to y'all so much, and I hope that y'all have a fantastic day. See you later.